Panthers might pick third, fourth, something like that. As long as they don't mess this up and win a game they shouldn't win between now and the end of the season, which I loved the Bryce Young development tour for like 5 weeks, and they were still managing to lose games. It was the best of all worlds. It wasn't his fault. They'd give up a touchdown drive or a field goal drive to Patrick Mahomes. Chuba Hubbard would fumble in overtime, or Xavier Legette would drop a pass that should have been a game-winning touchdown. So you get all the benefits of Bryce Young playing well without the nasty habit of screwing up your draft position. Obviously, they didn't play well this past week against Dallas. But if the Panthers, let's just say they end up with the third pick, is that the sweet spot for them? Are the two picks in front of 1 and 2, probably Giants and Raiders, are those going to be the quarterbacks?
Yeah, they almost have to be, right? We've seen what the offenses have looked like in Las Vegas and New York without a confident quarterback, or a healthy one for that matter. And while this quarterback class isn't anything like last year's in terms of depth and even talent at the top, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are going to be going 1 and 2 in some order unless something crazy happens. And I think the odds are 45-ish% that both the Vegas Raiders and the Giants end up in 1 or 2 in some form, and then that leaves the race wide open at 3 and beyond for the other teams. And if I'm Carolina, you have needs at edge rusher. Maybe even you take an interior defensive lineman. Mason Graham's a special player out of Michigan. Right. But if I'm picking third, it's pretty easy. I'm taking Travis Hunter, and I'm going to feel great about it. The fans are going to feel great about it, and he helps you. He's a 2-for-1 situation because he helps you on both sides of the ball. The only question, Adam, is you can't overuse him because if you play him 120 snaps, you're going to get 3 games out of him. You got to be judicious with that. But that's one you don't overthink. You take him and you move on and you regroup for rounds 2 and beyond.
And this is the way I would look at it. To me, I'd spot him at wide receiver. I'd treat him like the Falcons for a time where the Cowboys treated Dion. You're a cornerback every snap, and we'll give you a series here and there on the offensive side of the ball because he is special. I don't know if he's the best wide. I think he's the best cornerback in the draft. I don't know if he's the best wide receiver in the draft, but he's on the short list of candidates. We haven't seen a prospect like this, in like 60 years. He's Shohei Ohtani.
Yes, and I think he's compared himself to Ohtani. And Tedero McMillan is my favorite wide receiver in this draft. He's 6'5", 200 plus. He's a more athletic Drake London, and that's encouraging. But you could take him at 3, but then you're missing out on the 2-for-1 deal that I just talked about. And J.C. Horn, when healthy, he's playing pretty well. And then you pair him with a Travis Hunter. Now you're cooking. Now he's working on some things, and then you can add 15 to 20 snaps maybe on offense where you just get the ball in Travis's hands and he takes over. He's not a refined route runner, but he is so much better than everyone else on the field. It leaves your jaw on the floor, and we spend our days watching football, and that's how special he has been. And he deserved to win the Heisman, and I think he's going to be a top 5 talent. If he's not, then I don't know what the NFL is thinking because he's that good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Heisman voter. He got my vote. I voted Ashton Jeanty 2 and Cam Ward 3. I don't even know what the order was. I know it was 1-2 between Hunter and Jeanty. It was pretty close. Jeanty had that kind of a season. He's a dynamite player, but unless you're about to win a Super Bowl, I wouldn't take a running back at number 2 overall, even if his name is Saquon Barkley. Ryan Wilson, CBSSports.com, joining us here. Real quick about Bryce. I don't think we've talked in the last month or so. What are your thoughts on what we have seen from Bryce Young?
I'm so happy for him because he's a great kid, number one. And number two, your point is a good one. He's playing pretty high ball except for last week, and they're also the benefit of losing football games, not because of Bryce. And I don't know what happened because after week 2 when he was benched and after watching every single snap a year ago, which was it felt like punishment at times for me, he feels like a different dude, right? Yep. And sometimes I don't know if it's the players and today's age to date myself, and I'm going to throw you in that bucket as well, but maybe they could use a little benching and it allows them to regroup. When Anthony Richardson got benched, I was talking to a scout that said, you know what, he'll be fine. This will get his head on straight and he'll come back and be better. And he has been better. Bryce has been better than that. And the thing that I've taken away most, Adam, and I think Dave Canales probably deserves a lot of credit here, Bryce's footwork feels like he's back at Alabama. It's not the frenetic footwork we saw the first 18 games of his career. He's standing in the pocket. He's not looking to bail early. He's not looking to bail to his right and then make some off-platform throw that inevitably is into a bad situation. He's staying in there. He's delivering the ball. He's throwing with anticipation like he did at Alabama, and it's been fun. And I think the underlying sort of takeaway for me is that when you play with confidence, you're a different player, no matter if you're Josh Allen or if you're Bryce Young. So credit to him, credit to Canales, and hopefully they can keep this thing going.
I also think that they've moved him. They've let him use his legs in a designed way rather than you have to escape and fear for your life. All right, so let's continue talking about quarterbacks real quick. I don't think that the Kirk Cousins signing by Atlanta was a terrible thing. Did they pay him too much money? But get in line. Minnesota did too, as did Washington. Of course, Washington did so without a net, which was that's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen a front office do. That wasn't done in Florham Park, New Jersey, by the Jets. But the truth of the matter is that they just waited too long. Probably they cost themselves any chance at a playoff spot. Kirk Cousins has been bad for 5 weeks now. Michael Penix, my guess is, has probably been ready earlier than this. What was the hesitation?
Well, I think it was a confluence of things. Number one, no one on planet Earth outside of maybe our buddy Jonathon Jones, who had this in his one and only mock draft a week before the draft, had the Falcons taking Michael Penix Jr. at 8 because the math didn't add up. You just signed Kirk Cousins.
Right.
And I'm not one to defend Kirk Cousins historically, and I would oftentimes give him a hard time previously. But he was playing some of his best ball last year before that Achilles injury, and he was doing some things that we had not seen him do consistently, and that's what the Falcons were banking on. And I think the takeaway, and the same takeaway with Aaron Rodgers, when you're mid to late 30s and pushing 40 and you have an Achilles injury, you're probably not going to come back as the player you once was, and Kirk was never known to be fleet of foot. And it just feels like his arm strength isn't there. We just talked about confidence. I don't think he has any confidence. And when you take a quarterback 8 and you just sign Kirk Cousins to a huge deal, that probably didn't help Kirk Cousins' confidence either. So taken together, I was of the opinion, Adam, that, okay, look, he has to come out and ball out against the Raiders the other night. And he didn't do that. Prior to that, the previous 4 games, 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Yeah. I mean, that's the stuff of legend in the wrong direction. So I understand the move now. They're just in a bad spot, and maybe they were right to draft Michael Penix Jr., but if that's the case, why are you spending all that money on Kirk Cousins? And now we got to figure out what to do with him in the offseason. But for now, I think Michael Penix Jr. gives him the best chance, but you're asking a lot for a guy who hasn't played except a handful of snaps in Penix Jr., and the defense hasn't been great. So this will be interesting. Let's put it that way.
Well, no question. What they've done really is given away the advantage of having a cheap quarterback by having the most expensive backup in NFL history. Let me ask you about another quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. If you're the Chiefs, if you're Andy Reid, do you sit him for this game, or do you let him kind of gut his way through it to clinch, because they could lose the number 1 seed because Buffalo's only 2 games back and they have the tiebreaker with a win, so they're going to have to win probably twice because Buffalo has 3 bye weeks: New England, the Jets, and New England.
And by the way, this team is scoring 30 points like, most teams kick a field goal in the first quarter to get up 3. That's how good the Bills have been. And the Chiefs have been the exact opposite with the healthy Patrick Mahomes for a myriad reasons, starting with the offensive line play. I would imagine, given what we've seen historically with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, just even the preseason sort of conversations, he's going to be out there if he's got one working leg, and for the reasons you talk about, because the Bills ain't no joke.
No.
And the Bills in Buffalo is going to be a real problem for whoever has to go in there in January, including the Chiefs. So I think the Chiefs want to keep every advantage they have, and if that means Patrick has to gut it out on 1.5 legs versus the Texans, then that's what you do, and fingers crossed you keep him healthy, because I don't know that Patrick Mahomes at 80% in Buffalo in January does you any good. If you can sort of gut this out and get Patrick Mahomes 80-85% at home in January against the Bills, you're in a better situation. So I'm still waiting for the Chiefs to sort of figure it out, and everyone says just be patient, that'll happen, and typically it does happen. But I don't remember the last time we saw an offense like this Bills offense and Josh Allen playing like he's Derrick Jeter in his prime for the Yankees. He's doing things that don't even make sense. And that's a real concern for whoever has to face Buffalo.
I mean, I keep saying this, and I know it doesn't necessarily translate, but in this case, I think it might, in that I have a terrible fantasy football team, but I have Josh Allen, so I'm in the semifinals.
Amen. That's how it works.
Makes no sense. I drafted him too early. I was ridiculed for that. Yahoo gave me a D+ for my draft. They did. And I think they even mentioned you drafted a quarterback too soon. The Lions' health, how much of that is a concern for you, considering that they're tied with the Eagles and the Vikings, all at 12-2? Packers probably too far back to catch them, but there's a lot of banged-up bodies. They said that Aiden Hutchinson is going to be back for the Super Bowl, which is great, except that last I checked, you don't get a bye all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, this is a bad situation, and it's no one's fault but bad luck. Dan Campbell, sometimes he's too adventurous for some people's taste, but it's worked out well in the long run for the Lions in terms of winning these football games. Brad Holmes has been great as the GM, and you just, when you run out of bodies, I don't know what to do. And I don't know if Dan Campbell has probably verbalized that publicly. He probably thinks about it when he sees the cart come out for the next player on the field. They just can't seem to stay healthy, and they're signing guys literally off the street to help them out. Jamal Adams is playing. He was on the field the other night for them. And you just have to hope ain't a plan, but you have to hope that Jared Goff can play like he did, throwing punch for punch with Josh Allen and just sort of willing that team into the end zone as they try to somehow get healthy, because they're a better team on paper than the Eagles, and the Eagles I know are red hot, and they're certainly a better team on paper than the teams behind them, sort of sneaking up on them, trying to give them a little push in the NFC. But I don't know how you play without players. And you know, Mike Tomlin told me a long time ago, back when he was the DC of the Vikings before he got the Steelers job, and they got absolutely steamrolled by Tom Brady in a primetime game, and he said sometimes you don't have the players, and you know, it ain't going to work out for you, and that was one of those instances. So fingers crossed they can find a way to get healthy, and Jared Goff can help him out in the meantime.
That's Ryan Wilson, CBSSports.com, with the First Pick podcast, at Ryan Wilson CBS on Twitter. Merry and a happy to you and yours. I thank you so much. We'll talk to you after the first.
Happy holidays, Adam.
Take care, man.